When white supremacy is failing, when they keep on asking, why is it that black people are not complaining about the difficult things that are going on in the United States today? They keep asking themselves, why are black people still able to afford a smile in these economic times, right? And this shows you that there is a shift. Black people don't need to go on the street like they used to do. Black people don't need to talk much about Black Lives Matter because white people are dealing with themselves as white people. It's called white on white. So you ask yourself, why is white supremacy failing spiritually? Which leads us to our today's discussion. You understand that they are so much big geopolitical shifts. Black people have been down on the hierarchy. They have been seen as people who are not useful for the longest time, and majority of people have used black people to pass their agendas. Black people have learned resilience. Black people have become smart over time, and this shows you that all the structures that white supremacy put in place is now crumbling down. Brothers and sisters, I want us to watch this video. It proves and it shows that indeed, in the spiritual realm, white people are losing it. And the greatness that they had before, it's not great. And the United States that was great before, it was not great because all of this is collapsing down in real time and everyone is getting to observe and see this. This is something that even the blind sees, understands, because it's happening to everyone. Brothers and sisters, buckle up for this video. I'm your host and number one presenter, Agent Stories. And if you know you're watching me for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. And for those always coming back watching my videos, man, I'm really grateful for the support you're giving me. So let's get into it. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this.
Our silence is so disorienting for them. They want us to be mad and scared so bad. And y'all just refuse to give that to them. So here we are with made up stories about mobs of youth taking over the streets of DC with threats to occupy other predominantly black cities. But we predicted this. We saw this coming. We've said that we saw this coming. And so to make this announcement and to do all of this extra just feels a little bit embarrassing on their part. Like, y'all been running the same playbook for 400 years. We saw you coming, guys. We heard you. White supremacy is literally a joke. They know it, we know it, and they know that we know it. They will do anything to hold on to whiteness because without it, they are nothing and would have to admit that there is absolutely nothing supreme about them and that other cultures have run circles around them, even with 400 years of a head start and stolen labor. White supremacy, Trump and MAGA are literally the death rattle of white supremacy, and they are fighting tooth and nail to stay.
It's been absolutely hilarious the last couple of days watching all these evangelical Christians who all of a sudden care about prophecy and the Jews fulfilling prophecy. And really what it is all their white supremacy is just coming out. Because now all of a sudden, Israel and Hamas and what's happening in Gaza, all of a sudden that's filling prophecy. And they never cared about any of the prophecies concerning the people that call themselves Jews. Because if they did, they would pick up and they would see that Ashkenazis are sons of Japheth from the line of Gomer and not Shem. And they would see that their whole claim, the whole Zionism claim is false. They would see that the true children of Israel, according to prophecy, are scattered into all these different nations by way of ship. And that they have spent most of the last 400 years, or most of the latter days, serving their enemies, not the Most High. Their heritage was taken away from them. Even says that in Jeremiah 17 and the prophets 17:4. They have no idea who they are. It says that in the Torah that and the prophets that their enemies would become their gods because they didn't want to serve the Most High. That's how much dominance their enemies would have over them. But now all of a sudden, these people are fulfilling prophecy. Now the white evangelical Christians and those of you that follow them, now all of a sudden these people are fulfilling prophecy. And that's amazing to me. And you just show what liars and hypocrites you are and how you don't follow that book. It's a tool for you to maintain supremacy. And see, what's happening is this is not the Valley of Jehoshaphat. All these nations aren't gathering against Israel or what they call the nation of Israel, because they're with the Most High. They're gathering against Israel because they're sick of white supremacy. And the Holy One himself is sick of lies. And all liars are going to come down in the last day. So that's what you're seeing. The end of white supremacy. And that is prophecy too. Hallelujah.
The narrative of Miss Sarah Douglas. She says, I was born in Alabama. I don't know when though. I did not find out when I was born because Old Miss never told me. Mama died when I was real small and Old Miss raised me. I had a hard time of my life. I slept on the floor just like a cat. Anywhere I lay, I slept. In the winter, I slept on rags. If I got sick, Old Miss would give me plenty of medicine because she wanted me to stay well in order to work. My old master's name was John Buffett and Old Miss's name was Eddie Buffett. She would fix my bread and liquors in a tin lid and shove it to me on the floor. I never ate at the table until I was 12, and that was after freedom. To whip me, she would put my head between the fence rails and she'd take in the cowhide and whip me until I couldn't sit down for a week. Sometimes she tied my hands around a tree and tie our necks to the tree with our faces to the tree. They would get behind us with the cowhide whip with a piece of lead tied to the end. Lord have mercy. Child, I shouted when I wasn't happy. All I could say, oh pray, mistress, pray. That was our way of saying, Lord have mercy. The last whipping old Mrs. give me, she tied me to a tree, and oh my Lord, old Mrs. whipped me that day. That day was the worst whipping I ever got in my life. I cried and bucked and hollered until I couldn't. I gave up for dead and she wouldn't stop. I stopped crying and said to her, oh miss, if I were you and you were me, I wouldn't beat you this way. That's that cowhide whip. We went to the white folks' church. We sit in the back on the floor. They allowed us to join their church when I asked our miss and master what they thought about it, and if they could see any changes. They would get up and say, I notice she don't steal. I notice she don't lie as much. I notice she worked better. Then they let us join. We served our mistress and our master in slavery time and not God.
Real Valley of Jehoshaphat will come about when Babylon and the land of Havilah, where there is gold, okay, which is Africa, when it becomes self-determined and the Most High raises them up as he's doing with us right now. And they decide that the Gentiles can no longer freely take their resources and what the Most High has given them. And they say no more to the bauxite and to the cobalt and to the gold and uranium, all the stuff that they've been taking. That's going to be the Valley of Jehoshaphat when all the nations gather against that region over there in Africa, Babylon. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful land of Eden.
And just as a side note, when they say, don't you know this is Australia in the 21st century? Dear brother and sister, we were all born here, most of us. We don't care what country this is. Let's just be very, very blunt about this. This whole culture of being afraid what they're going to say about us because we're in this or that country, it has to stop. They need to know that we don't care what they think about us. We need to care what Allah Azza wa Jal thinks about us. You think they have a culture that we're afraid with? You know, they say, don't go against the modern culture, the majority culture. You think they have a culture that remains of theirs? Do you think anything will remain of their culture in 50 years, dear brother? It'll get swallowed up by multiculturalism and waves of migration. You know it, dear brother. The white supremacy of the West is finished. It's yesterday's news. So stop trying to please the white man, as they say. They know that their culture is going down. We need to stop caring where we are and when we are, and care what Allah is pleased with. Islam is the same here as it is over there in any country, so get over it.
My bad if I'm a little late on this. The other night, all Republicans unanimously voted against Amendment 31. Amendment 31 is an interagency cooperative plan to identify, discuss, and eradicate white supremacy within our law enforcement agencies in America. Let me repeat that. Every single Republican voted against Amendment 31. And Amendment 31 was an interagency cooperative plan to identify, discuss, and eradicate white supremacy in our law enforcement in America. Now, why, oh why, would you not want us to identify, discuss, and eradicate white supremacy in our law enforcement in America?
I think white people are disconnected from their spirits. And some men too, because of the patriarchy and racism. I have a theory. Okay, so I made a diagram. Everyone is made up of their mind, their body, and their spirit, right? You with me? Okay. So, but your spirit lives inside of here. This is your spirit. But your spirit, or your true self, your spirit is your truest sense of self. But you protect your spirit with your ego, right? With like this projection of your spirit, this version of yourself, this version of your spirit that you project out into the world so that people interact with this ego first. And so if that ego is bruised or hurt or tainted, that is, they feel like their spirit is being attacked because it's a version of their spirit, but it is not truly their spirit. But because I feel like the patriarchy and racism have inflated let's make it bigger, shall we? Has inflated the ego of white people by way of white supremacy, and men by way of the patriarchy. Their ego is gigantic in comparison to their spirit, and their spirit has been shrank to this little itty bitty little dot. So here's their spirit now, but their ego is like this. And so when they can't hear their spirit, they can't see their spirit, they don't even know what their spirit looks like. This is why everyone's like, oh, listen to black women are magic, or we're so smart. And it's like, black women, we have not had our ego inflated to the size of the planet Earth. And so we can hear our spirit. We can hear our intuition, which is really what it is. When you're listening to your spirit, you're listening to your intuition. And your intuition is your ability to navigate throughout the world, collect data based on your experiences, based on what you see, based on your five senses, what you feel, and then like how you use them, all the experiences that you have. Whenever you have those gut feelings, or like that initial reaction when you meet someone, or when you see someone, or like that, all of that data that you collected throughout your life, it comes to you in a moment, and a feeling, and that is your intuition. Your intuition is really just like a computer processor putting out information, but you can't read through all that information. Your intuition is you're basically the best AI in the whole wide world. You can't read through all of it as a human. Your mind can't process that much information, but your spirit can. And so whenever it tells you something, you have you feel it. You feel like this person is weird, or I'm afraid here, or but you can't put words to it. You can't explain why you don't like this person, but you just don't like them. Or you can't explain why this man feels creepy because he's smiling, he's handsome, he looks nice, but something about you creeps you out, but the man will be like, I'm not creepy, I'm a wonderful person, and everyone else is like, oh, I'm a wonderful person, he's a wonderful person. And so you ignore that intuition, that spirit, in favor of your ego, because he's fine, he's a good looking man. And so you listen to the ego, and then you end up hurt in some way because you didn't listen to your spirit, your intuition. But men and white people, they have had their spirits shrunk, especially white people, because white people have this they are incentivized to not be themselves. They are incentivized to not be unique. They are incentivized to consume. Their culture is consumption. And the more you consume, the more you are feeding your ego. Like, consumption is feeding your ego. You can only feed your spirit by the opposite of consumption. You feed your spirit by sitting with self, by meditation, by introspection, by like just thinking, just like you feed your spirit by just being. You're like, when you are okay with just being alive, just being here, you find your inherent worth as a human being by just breathing the air that we breathe. That is how you feed your spirit. But when you are consuming, that is feeding the ego. And white people have a consumerist culture. They have this, and they've spread it to everyone. So a lot of people have, like, this more of this consumerist mentality, but men have it a lot specifically because they are rewarded the more they consume, the more resources they consume, the more, women they consume or conquer, the more children they have, which will create more consumption in the world. That feeds their ego, and the ego gets bigger and bigger. And the bigger your ego is, the tinier your spirit becomes. Your spirit's like, hello. And it's like shouting into a dark room that's locked into a cage because you don't feed your spirit with just being. I can't explain that enough. Just, I am because I am. I'm here. I'm like being present, like not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, just breath work, is like being intentionally very extremely present. But yeah, so that's my running theory, that why white people are kind of awful sometimes, and they don't see racism, they don't see when they're being awful, because all that would come with being in touch with your spirit. But when your ego has been inflated, been pumped up by capitalism, been pumped up by patriarchy, been pumped up by white supremacy, you're never going to hear this. You're never going to hear that. And you're just going to be like, oh my God, black women, they just seem so amazing. I don't understand why they're that way and I'm not this way. Or, black men, anyways. Yeah. So what do you think? Thanks for listening.
Demonizing the spiritual practices of other cultures while simultaneously propping up Christianity as the holier-than-thou practice in spiritual religion is a form of white supremacy and Christian nationalism, and is a complete and direct reflection of how freedom of religion is only okay when you practice the white man's religion. I have seen this consistently happen, but I have specifically seen this happen in the Black community, where we have been made to believe that anything that comes from the East, anything that comes from Africa, anything that comes from India or any other Black and brown country is of demonic origin, while we are also simultaneously taught that Jesus was the one savior. And it is also no coincidence that Jesus here is white and we are praying to a white Jesus, and we are praying to a God that is a man. Overall, white Christianity, especially here in America, just furthers the white savior complex and this idea that as Black and brown people, we are inherently bad, we are inherently dirty, and we are inherently evil, and we need someone white to rectify us and purify us. So it is so unfortunate that things such as yoga, crystals, meditation, manifestation, hoodoo, voodoo are seen as demonic, when if you really ask me, Christianity has caused a lot more evil.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you watch me from. I'm your number one host and presenter, Agent of Stories. I'm just gonna let you know that Black people are winning. It might not be like physically, like I can point it out like this, but there's so much indicators, there's so many things that really shows that indeed Black people are winning. And what it means for white supremacy to die spiritually, I'm going to be explaining it to you. I'm going to be presenting this and trying to show you how this really feels like. And white supremacy failing is not about losing political power or demographics. It's about the collapse of the moral story that sustained the system. White supremacy as dependent on narrative that sanctify hierarchy, myths of superiority, exemptionalism, and divine or scientific justification. When those stories lose their moral face, when people no longer believe that lie that one group is inherently superior, that spiritual infrastructure that kept systemic racism intact starts to crumble. Spiritual death here means the erosion of intact start to crumble. Spiritual death here means that the erosion, consent, legitimacy, and the cultural rituals, that's cultural rituals are the media representation, schooling, legal rationales that made domination feel natural, that all these structures, we see them are failing because people are starting to see all these things happen in real time. People are starting to see white people for who they are. And now they understand that indeed the white supremacy is failing. You ask yourself, why is it that the spiritual rot is accelerating big time? White supremacy's spiritual backbone is brittle, which means it's easily to break, right? Because it rests on its contradiction. Preaching freedom while practicing dispossession, insisting on the rule of law while tolerating impunity for allies, celebrating merit while extracting an earned wealth. Those contradictions those contradiction merit generate cognitive and moral dissonance. The more visible the hypocrisy through video, data, storytelling, you know, the harder it is for the old spiritual narrative to hold. You know, um, to hold. People sense the moral bankruptcy institution that once conferred moral authority. This includes churches, universities, newsroom, which are being today interrogated, and that cultural reckoning drains the spiritual oxygen from supremacy. Let's talk about black people. Black spiritual resources that sustain resilience. Black communities draw on deep wells of spiritual strength that have outlived empires. The Black Church, ancestral memory, healing rituals, protest liturgies, and traditions of mutual aids. These practices are not merely sentimental; they are structural resistance and renewal. They cultivate meaning. Um, they cultivate meaning. They cultivate shape, hope, and transcend view of justice. When people say something supernatural is fighting for black people, they often point to the living traditions, a sustained convict that suffering is not the final word and that moral order bends towards repair, guarded prayer, song, and communal sacrifices. All of these things that we are seeing today, there is much rebound. Power is getting back to black people. Like, not geopolitically, like black people are having power, like they have guns to do everything. But get to understand, it is not as difficult as it used to be. Of course, it is difficult, but they have a thick skin to deal with all this craziness that is happening in the United States today. And this shows you, and this tells you that there is something supernatural, probably God, which is helping, which is making black people thrive even in these hard times. It is really beyond explanation on what all these folks expect. They expect that black people should be suffering. Black people should be on the forefront. Black people should be on the protest doing everything that they're doing. But guess what? Black people ain't doing shit. Black people are just sitting down, minding their business, doing what they think is right. And so, brothers and sisters, indeed, there is something supernatural that is fighting, that is helping black people. I understand black people have started seeing the importance of unity. Black people are supporting each other, especially during these times of snap cuts. We are seeing black people coming together than ever before. There is so much big community that is building up in the black community. And I'm seeing it, it's happening. So there is a union. While on the other side, it's the opposite. White folks are fighting against each other. They are calling each other out. And you understand how this happens. And this is something which has been up. This is something which we have not seen in long time in history. So when we see this all happening, we are seeing white supremacy failing in big time. Now, concrete signs this spiritual shift is producing material change. Cultural power, we see them through films, music, scholarship, reframes who is human and worthy economically. Black entrepreneurship, collective investment, and alternative institutions, that's co-ops, mutual aid, community banks, erode dependency and build independence. Politically, shifting demographics and newly mobilized voters challenge entrenched power. Now, legally, visibility and organizing force, accountability in some cases. Each of these is a translation of spiritual momentum into structural gain. A moral tide that creates opening, others must either adapt or be swept away by this. So this is happening in real time. Brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this video. I'm your host and #1 presenter Ejito Stories. Again, if you're watching it for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership. I really get to see what I can offer you. But until then, let me see you on my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.